Thank you very much. This is amazing. It looks like we have a lot of new people here this month. Who's been coming forever? We've been doing this for 5 years. Who's been coming for 5 years? All right. Who's been coming for a couple of years at least? Fantastic. Thank you for being here. Who's brand new? Lots of hands. Awesome. Who's only here because they want to know about safe driving? Okay. Who would like to know more about Empowered Senior? Thank you. All right, we're going to start with that. I'm Katherine Ambrose, and I have been in housing my entire life, real estate, and I started both Keller Williams real estate offices here in town. My husband, Randy, back there, who carried in all this stuff to get us started, the tables, and then these amazing sponsors around the room worked so hard to get coffee here and all kinds of materials. So we're going to talk about what Empowered Senior is. We're a nonprofit that my husband Randy and I started. Is Dee still here, or did Dee already have to leave? She's gone. Okay. Busy Dee, bookkeeping still here? Okay, but Ann's here. Thank you, Ann. All right, we're running live stream. So if you're watching on the screen live, post your questions, and we will answer your questions as we go. We have Ann Schaefer ready to take your questions today. And if you're watching in the future, you're welcome to call us anytime for more information. All right, so what I do is I help seniors with quality of life. Everything to do with your home and where you might choose to live. I can help you find your different housing options and just talk to you about overall quality of life. I do family consultations and in-home consults. We have amazing professionals in the room that volunteer and give their time, and they financially support our nonprofit in order to put this free education on. Do you like free? Is that a good price? So thank you, and thank you to these amazing education partners that help provide this. We have attorneys in the room, which I think is amazing because you can imagine what they might charge per hour. And the respect that they have to be here to answer your questions live in person for free is incredible. The professionals all around this room are here to answer your questions. We put together the most incredible panel today to talk about safe driving. So you'll want to be sure to have some paper to take notes. We have a mini self-assessment of driving ability that you can fill out, and you can take notes on the back of that. We also, today, have done something extra special. We have a photo of each of the panelists and information, and you can add any information to this that they provide to you. So you can take notes on this, and you can write on the back. Okay? So we're in our 5th year of operation doing this free seminar here at Botanica, which includes your garden admission. We pay for that. Your ticket is bought and paid for, and the tulips are blooming. So I hope that you will take a little bit of time to go out there and tiptoe through the tulips. We have a television show that the seminar series was inspired by, I guess, and we started a television show with PBS Kansas. Terry Brooks, Director of Development, is here. With PBS Channel 8, they have 4 channels. Did you know that PBS has 4 channels? Lots of content. And our show, Empowering Seniors, is so popular that we were given the opportunity to create a second show, and that show is called Ageless Enthusiasm. Mindy East is the host of that show. And these shows are created for you and your family, and if you have show ideas for us, we would like to hear about it. If you have guests that you think we should interview on television, we'd like to know. If you know of an author or a speaker coming into Wichita that you think would be good for us to book an interview with, we want to know that. We're doing some really tremendous interviews and providing information to a lot of people that maybe aren't as active as you are, and they're able to watch on TV, or they work during the day and they're able to watch on TV and glean some of this information. Now, in a 28-minute show, we can't cover what we show during 90 minutes here. And I think that most people like our program length. I've had a few people say, oh, I wish it was shorter. Well, guess what? We're all adults here, and if you wish it was shorter and only 60 minutes, then you can show up a little later or you can leave a little earlier. You're welcome to get up and go to the restroom. You're welcome to get up and go get coffee. You are free. This isn't high school, and we're upperclassmen. We're not freshmen or sophomores, right? I like to say we're upperclassmen. There's not a really great word for senior. Who likes the word senior? How about if it's attached to senior discount? Like, get a senior discount, I like that. But otherwise, I don't see very many hands. So if you have a better word, let us know, because we want to know what it is, and we'll start incorporating it. Age enhanced. I like that, age enhanced. What were some of the other ones? Experienced. Seasoned. Spicy. I like that. My daughter likes that. These are the companies that specifically support the seminar that you're at today. Please give them a hand and thank them for being here. Any veterans in the room? Please come up if you would like and lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. We're so lucky in our lifetime to be living here in the United States of America, despite anything that's going on. We've still won the lottery by being here, and we owe great debt to the veterans that are heroes. They are heroes when they sign the line to join, putting their lives on the line, and we appreciate that. And if everyone would please stand to honor our veterans who will lead us in the pledge. Woohoo! Thank you. Thank you very much. All right, I already talked about this. What our organization does, we educate on quality of life and housing and everything else to do with aging. You know, if you think about the kids that are taking their babies and toddlers around and running after these kids and carrying these huge diaper bags year after year, that seemed like a pretty hard time of life, and it is. But as we age, that's no joke. And the issues that we deal with in aging in our 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, it's no joke. And we're talking about a very serious topic today, so I wore my serious business shirt today. At Downsizers Club, it's free. We do it every month. That's another thing we do. It's a smaller event where you do the talking, and we help lead you through minimizing the stuff you have in your home, decluttering, and preparing to downsize now or just in case in the future. And we hold that at PBS headquarters, a beautiful building that PBS just moved into, and it's a great location for that. All right. We just started our social club that we've been talking about for a while, Empowered Senior Ambassadors. This is the founding group. We promote, or we send out information by email, and we put information on our Facebook page. And so if you missed the first meeting, don't worry, we're just getting started, but these are the people that started it. And if you're one of our ambassadors, would you please come up here to the front of the room? Diana, Carl, Elaine, Barbara, Joyce, come on up. So these are longtime attendees that want to help spread the word about Empowered Senior, and you're interested in having fun, right? Going to movies, joining other clubs, going to other events. Diana has been going all over the city finding out about all kinds of new things. What have you found out?
Well, I retired a few years ago, and I was getting kind of bored. Oops. Oh, retired a few years ago and was getting kind of bored, so I was kind of looking for more things to do. And I've been to city council meetings. I've talked to Parks and Recreation. I've been to a lot of senior centers, and there's the movie theaters. There's so many opportunities out there to get out, meet some people, do something different, either free or at a very low cost. So our goal is in the next few months to have that available at each of these sessions, an update of additional opportunities to go out and see new things, get fresh air, meet some new people, maybe make some new friends.
Great. Thank you. So making new friends, we're social creatures, and that's what Ambassadors is all about. Greeting people that are arriving at the seminars, making people feel comfortable, and then doing things together, whatever might interest you. And maybe having a friend that's going to be at the dance lesson that you will know is going to be there, and so it makes it a little more comfortable to go for the first time. My mom, Barbara, does a lot of dancing, and she knows all about all the dancing in town. So I'd like to thank you for being part of the pioneers, the founding members of Ambassadors. Got your water bottle, because we all know we need to drink more water. There you go. Joyce. Okay. All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And a lot of people don't know about Empowered Senior. Who'd never heard of Empowered Senior before coming to this particular one? Okay, very good. And we've got Red Hatters here. Red Hatters, yay. You guys can invite more Red Hatters and wear your red hats so people see you and get curious, and maybe you can get more people interested in your club. All right, we're going to get started with our safe driving program. But I have a gift for everybody. We gave a gift out to the ambassadors. I have something for those of you that are regulars or think you might like to be regulars. We invested in binders, and they are at the Ambrose team table in the back of the room. Jillian and Randy, could you wave your hand? So one per household, unless you really want your own, but otherwise one per household. Please go up and get your binder. And from this point on, as you get information, you can have it 3-hole punched and put in your binder. So if you'd like a binder, you're welcome to go back there and get one. And you can do that right now. We'll take a minute to do that, and we'll have Dr. Krug come up, and I'll introduce him as soon as you have your binders. So every month we give you a lot of education materials, and a lot of times it gets scattered around the house. So this is a way that you can keep all your materials together. Okay. All right. Yeah.
Right there.
Mm-hmm. There you go. They're right up here. Will be just great. And if you'd like a binder brought to you, you can raise your hand and we'll have one brought to you. Okay. And again, if you want a binder, just raise your hand. There's one back here that would like one. And Jillian or Bretta will bring one to you. Okay, let's get going. Dr. Kendall Krug retired from full-time optometry practice in Hayes, and he goes around and educates on this, and we'll have him tell you more. And another thing that he does is he's on the medical advisory board of the Kansas Division of Vehicles. And he's presented on driving and vision issues at state and national levels. So we brought the best of the best. Dr. Krug, thank you so much for being here.
Thanks. Just be careful. You get what you pay for. So anyway, well, good morning, everybody. Thanks for coming.
Real loud. And I mean loud, and put your lips right up to the mic.
Is that better? Sorry. Since I retired, I don't have to talk loud anymore. But anyway, as an eye doctor, vision and driving is always one of the topics that eye doctors really don't like to talk about. So I put this presentation together for doctors groups, for the Kansas School for the Blind that I work for in vision. And Katherine said it couldn't be 60 minutes and 60 slides, so it's somewhat truncated. So anyway, so. You know, I found with a person with allergies, Botanica is not the place to come in springtime. So anyway, how many of you are still driving? How many have had to stop driving? Some. How many would like to drive? Okay. So we're going to talk about some of those things. How many of you should not be driving? Very good. You know, I've found through my years of practice that most people get to a point where they self-restrict. And I've known people that have had fatality accidents and things like that we don't want to happen. But, you know, why are eye doctors involved? Well, vision's responsible for 95% of what you need to do when you're driving. It's huge. And that's why you have to take a vision test when you go to the Department of Vehicles. You know, some states call it DMV, but it's just the vision office here. So a lot of factors involved with driving. The most familiar one is visual acuity. You have to read the eye chart, and I'm going to get specific on what you have to read. But we also worry about your peripheral vision. And I'm going to go through studies that have been published to show what are the most important on this list, what are the most important things for driving. In Kansas, they just test visual acuity. Color perception, if you have a CDL or a commercial license, you have to be able to see red, green, yellow. Contrast sensitivity, something you're not familiar with, but that's being able to see in dim situations. Light and glare you're familiar with when you go out on a bright day or try to drive at night. Oculomotor skills, seeing things but then being able to act on them with your muscles. And our cognitive ability is huge, and actually the speed of how fast we can react. Whoops. That's not right. Katherine?
Oh, I'm sorry. It's not live.
Okay. Why is it going to the end?
I think that slide was duplicated. So
Okay. Very good. Sorry about that. Skipping ahead to the end. Other factors, you know, if you've been a driver most of your life, you've got a lot of skills. When we work with teenage drivers, especially if they're visually impaired and they've never driven, they got to get the experience. So that's worth something. Most people are motivated not to lose their driver's license. You got to have good judgment, and that's something we see as we get older. If you're fortunate to live in a town where there's other transportation options, you know, you need to consider that. If you have other disabilities, you need to be aware of that as well. Skills for driving. So to kind of put it in a nutshell, you got to be able to see the environment and perceive what's happening. And remember, it's not static. It's moving all the time. You have to be able to use your mental ability to act on what you're seeing, and then you have to have the coordination to do that. And then if you have some disability, you have to compensate for things you can't have. So for the group we're talking about today, what happens as we get older? Most of us, our vision goes down. You get cataracts or something like that. So you have to be able to compensate for those changes. So let's start with some of the research. I don't like just making stuff up anecdotally. You know, I went through the literature to see, you know, what's out there, what's been published, what's been shown to be effective. So everything I'm going to show you here, the state of Kansas doesn't use right now. We probably need to. But this was a published article showing what are the factors involved with driving. Well, it's this visual processing idea. You see something and you have to understand what you're seeing in real time and act on it. So you need to have sensory ability, vision. You have to have the cognitive ability to be able to recognize a situation, and you have to have the motor ability to act on that information. And when we're dealing with those problems, probably on-road testing is probably the best way to evaluate somebody. And Kansas does allow that in certain situations, and I'll get to that. Here's a study published in the Journal of Gerontology. The best test out there, and it's been published in multiple journals over the years, is called the Useful Field of View test. Kansas doesn't use it. I have it in my office because it's the best way to evaluate somebody's ability to drive. But it basically measures how fast you can visually process something, and you have to detect targets both centrally and in the periphery with distractors. And so I'll show you how it works. You have to have a computer to do it. The best test for driving fitness. Here's another one. High order visual processing from Ophthalmology Journal in 2017. They tested 2,000 drivers using this useful field of view test. These were the risk factors they found for people who were at high risk for crashing. Old age, decreased contrast vision, decreased field of vision, and impaired visual processing. Non-risk factors, visual acuity. What does the state of Kansas use? Visual acuity. You have to read 20/40 on the eye chart. So studies definitely show that visual acuity is not the test we should be using. But it's cheap, it's easy, it's in all the DMV offices. So that's probably what we're stuck with for now. Here's how it works. So this is just going to be kind of a simulation of how the tests work. It starts with a blank screen. A little square is going to pop up in the middle, and then when I hit the button, it's going to present the stimulus. So it's either going to put a picture of a car or a truck in the little square, and then it's going to have a peripheral target. And you have to get it right 75% of the time. So it's a reaction time test. It times you how fast you can do it. You have to get it right 75% of the time. So ready? Here we go. All right. So what did you... Okay, did everybody see that? All right, so what did you see in the middle? So you have to pick which one did you see. You have to get that right 75% of the time. And then you have to say, where was the peripheral target? Well, it was down at about 7 o'clock. Now, you saw those triangles. Those are called distractors. So that's like driving with your cell phone. So this is the best test. Now, there's 3 different phases to the test. The first phase is just the center target. The second phase is the center target and the peripheral target. Third phase is all 3 with the distractors. So that is the most accurate way to determine fitness for driving. And I had a patient, so all my visually impaired drivers, I would do this because I had to sign the form. I had to put my license on the line. The best patient I ever had to do this test was a 25-year-old patient who had albinism, had about 2100 vision, and he had the fastest score on this test. So we know he would not have passed his driver's test by just the acuity test alone. All right, the second thing we look at that's important is a test called contrast sensitivity. Now, some of your eye doctors may have this test in the office, but basically the top picture is normal contrast. Bottom picture shows about a 60% loss of contrast. So if you have a cornea disease, if you have a cataract, it's going to reduce how much light gets into the eye. So this test has been shown to be very sensitive for ability to drive. Here's a study from 2020. They had a 12-month study. They put accelerometers on cars to see if people were coming up too fast and slamming on the brakes, and they found that there was an association with reduced contrast vision and crash risk. So we know that's a good test to use. Visual field. Kansas doesn't use this. They used to. And, you know, that's called peripheral vision. You can have different types of vision loss. You can have dead spots kind of in the middle. That's kind of what macular degeneration does. Or you can have loss of peripheral vision, like the bottom picture. Now, if your field of vision is 20 degrees, that's legal blindness. Kansas allows you to drive with a 20-degree field of view right now. So one of the things we would like to get changed. That's not safe to drive. So here's a study on visual field loss and safety driving. They were looking at the driving performance with different types of visual field loss, and they found that people who had field loss had to take more steering corrections because they didn't see a full field, but they could compensate for it. And so that's a lot of times when we try to get driving instructors, occupational therapists involved with teaching you how to scan and move your head around. The visual field is typically in your right eye. The visual field will go out 90 degrees to the right, and it goes about 60 degrees to the left. The left eye goes 90 degrees to the left and about 60 degrees to the right. So that center area of 120 degrees is seen by both eyes. So most states use a 120-degree field of view as the requirement, but the state does not test for that. If you come up under a medical review, you may have to go to your eye doctor, and they may ask you to do a visual field test. I worry mostly about visual field. So here's the final test. It's called visual acuity. You've all seen one of these charts, different types. Some doctors project them on the wall. Some of them are electronic now. This is a standard chart that we use for vision impairment exams. This is what we use for school vision screenings. So, you know, which line do you need to be able to read? That's the question. Obviously, that's not a real-world test of your driving ability. So where did that come from? Every state has a visual acuity requirement. Kansas is 20/40, and most of them are 20/40 to 20/60. So that's pretty standard across the board, easy to test. This is probably, but again, that just tells your ability to see a road sign. Where did that come from? The AMA gave that recommendation back in 1925 to be able to see 20/40 was their recommendation. So that's what we're still using. And that's almost 100 years ago. So that's what road signs are engineered to, 20/40. So you have to be able to see 20/40 to read your road sign. Okay. Probably the most comprehensive study that looked at all of these different tests that I've just shown you. Population-based study of the role of vision impairment in motor vehicle crashes. So this was done in Maryland. They did all of those tests I just described: acuity, contrast, glare, stereo vision, visual fields, and useful field of view. What did they find? Visual acuity and stereo vision, depth perception, were not associated with crashes. Glare sensitivity, visual field loss, useful field of view were significant predictors. That's what we should be screening for, and we're not. So again, when I work with visually impaired drivers, we have to pull out some of these other tests, because if we just put down 20/70 on their driver's form, they're not going to pass without more review. So let's talk about the Kansas driving law. Okay, I had a patient once in Topeka, her daughter, and she had a hereditary retina condition. About 2200 vision was the best they would ever see with glasses. Daughter went through a vision rehab program, got a telescopic lens, went through about 20 hours of behind-the-wheel training, had to take a drive test with the state, and she passed. And it's a restricted license, which is allowed. Her mother thought she could do the same thing since her daughter did it, and she didn't go through the proper steps. She wasn't trained in how to use a telescope, and I actually got deposed by an attorney on it. She had never been trained how to use it. Well, they denied her license. So what did she do? She sued the state of Kansas. Now, you're not going to win if you sue the state of Kansas over a driver's license. Driving is not a right. It's a privilege granted by the state if you meet the statutory requirements. And I'll go over those real quick here at the end. So do not sue the state. You're not going to win. This is statute 8295. That's the vision standard. This is the current standard. So when you go get your driver's license renewed, you look into a little machine, a vision tester. Okay? You have to get 20/40 in one eye or better, with or without glasses, and you pass. Okay? If you cannot meet the 20/40 standard, they're going to give you a 124 form. They say, take this to your eye doctor, optometrist, ophthalmologist. He has to fill it out. When you take it to the eye doctor, we have to put in what is the diagnosis. What reason would somebody's vision change? Most of the time, they just need their glasses changed. So the only person that can measure that is an eye doctor. So a lot of times, doctor said, oh, you need to change your glasses, you'll pass, fill out the form, you take it back and you get it. So 20/40, one eye. That gets your license in Kansas. Okay. You can have restrictions. So I've got restrictions, I have to wear glasses. But it is a misdemeanor if you have a restriction on your license and you're not using your glasses or whatever. So you can be fined for that. So summary, if your vision can be corrected better than 20/60, we can get a license in Kansas. Now, that's just acuity. Okay, that's what the law is. You may need to have some kind of corrective lens to get that. If your vision's worse than 2200, if you got some kind of eye disease that cannot be corrected, probably you shouldn't be driving, okay? In that 2060 to 2200 area, that's kind of the gray area where you need to work with your eye doctor. Maybe you need to have cataract surgery. That happens a lot. Person's vision drops, their birthday comes up, and they're due for their license renewal, and they can't pass. So get their cataract surgery, they're back to 20/20, and they can pass. If you're in that over 20/60, you have to have a drive test in the state of Kansas. So that is the law. And so you have to be prepared for that if you can do it. Now, if you live out in a rural area, it's easier than if you're in an urban area like Wichita. There's going to be restrictions. Usually those licenses are restricted. You have to have an eye doctor fill out the form every year just to show that your vision hasn't changed. One thing we can fit, I don't know if any of you use these, but these are called bioptic telescopes. So if this person has 2200 vision, when they look through that telescopic lens, we can get them down to 20/40 or something like that. So we fit a lot of these on younger people, but you are allowed to drive with these in Kansas to meet the standards. It does not make you a safe driver. It just allows you to see the vision standards that you need. Anybody use a telescope? Got a couple back there. Good. I apparently don't have the magic touch here. Those are prescription glasses, so you have to have an eye doctor fill them. Places like Envision, they do things like that. Other recommendations I would make for you. If you're kind of bordering, make sure you have your eyes checked every year to see if any small tweaks in your prescription might get you seeing better. And remember, as cataract comes on, you might need filter glasses. Special orange, yellow, amber glasses will help, especially on a day like today. You know, use some of the other technology that you have on your smartphone or your car. You know, use your GPS system. Not that you're going to be looking at the map, but it's going to give you a heads up of, okay, you need to turn right up here in about 0.2 of a mile. So it's going to give you a little bit more time to react. And I hate driving in Wichita, so you know, I use that all the time. What does the future hold? And we're talking about this at the national level. You've heard of self-driving cars? Well, there's a talk that blind people will be able to drive a car, or they'll be able to get a license at some point. We're not talking about that in Kansas yet, but that is on the future. And as technology gets better, I think that's going to help us a lot. I was talking to the officer about in some of the small towns out west, people are allowed to drive golf carts in town or ATVs if they're properly equipped with safety equipment and signals. So in smaller towns where there's not public transportation, there are some alternatives. Very good. So that's the end of my presentation. Hopefully we're on time. And that was a very fast view, but I wish you well and continued safe driving.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. So vision is something that naturally changes as we age, and one of our biggest concerns is that your field of vision gets much smaller. So look up here for just a second. If you can't see past a certain way, it's going to seem like people are sneaking up on you. This car came out of nowhere. This ambulance came out of nowhere, and I hit it. And it can be because the lower field of vision. Is that correct? And so a lot of seniors get scared because the crazy drivers out there, but it can be because the vision is impaired. And so you want to see some experts to see how safe your eyesight is and whether you should be driving. And so we've got a lot of other experts to bring up. Come on up. We have Candace, Sedgwick County Transit Manager, okay, and Ken Neely with the AARP. He's a driving instructor. And do you know about the AARP Safe Driving course, and you can get a discount on your insurance? I know some of you are signed up for the next one, so that's something you'll definitely want to know about. And we have a police officer here from the Wichita Police Department, Brian Mock. Come on up. Thank you very much. All right, and Randy, I might have you just grab 2 of these out of the way. Can I have 2 of you come a little bit closer? And we'll just take the extra 2 chairs. Okay, come on up. All right, so we're going to have each of our experts share some of their best tips with you, something that you might want to write down, and then we're going to open it up for questions. Okay, Ken, right here. We'll start with you, Ken. And remember, put your lips right up to the mic and speak as loud as you can.
Okay, my name is Ken Neely. I've been a AARP driver instructor for about 3 years now. One of the things about AARP's driver safety program is that we have been doing this for about 40 years now, and it's the most comprehensive program for drivers age 50 plus. One of the good things about the course now is that in 2022 we were able to revamp the course, so what you're getting now is completely new. We started using this new course in February of last year, and so it's been completely revamped. So if you used it, took the course prior to last year, then you're going to find that the information is a lot more interesting for you this year. And also we have another little booklet here that talks about the other programs that we offer. One of the things that we have is that because of the cars changing so much, new technology and so forth, there's a safe driver technology section that you can take. Also, we have a car fit course that's offered, and we have the car fit is in, we have some scheduled in Lawrence, Kansas, just about once a month. And that is another good course that you may consider taking because as you know, your body changes, you're considering buying a different car, something like that, then it might be interesting for you to take that car fit course so that you can make sure that you can get all of the adjustments done. If you need any kind of assistive devices like pedal extenders or cushions to raise you up or whatever, where your normal car adjustments can't get you there, then that car fit will they can make some recommendations for you as far as going and getting those assistive devices. The course now is about 6 sections. 6 sections within the course. We still have a 4-hour course, and one of the things that we look at is all of the changes that have been happening, not only in cars, in our physical abilities and so forth, but also how the roads have changed, new signage, and all of those kinds of things. So we really feel like it's really beneficial for you to do this refresher, because I think you'll learn some things that you may not have realized that was happening to us.
Okay, so taking the course can enlighten you to things that you weren't even aware of that you had issues with. And this is the book that they get. This is a huge, heavy book that you get as part of that class, and it's really impressive. And then you have some other information. So we've put the information from the panelists up at that front table. And Jillian, I've got 2 3-hole punches in my plastic box if people need the material 3-hole punch before they leave. Okay, Officer Brian Mock.
Well, good morning. I'm going to stand up if you guys don't mind. I don't always fit into chairs with all this stuff around my waist very well. So I feel like I'm probably the least expertise of the experts that's up here, but I'm here to talk to you kind of about what happens when the police department gets involved with some of this stuff, right? So I'm going to kind of go over some of that statistics that we see as a department within the city of Wichita, okay? So the city of Wichita, the police department responds to somewhere between 500 and 800 crashes a month, okay? It depends on the month and how many people are out driving. Now, weird things been happening nationwide, and Wichita's following that trend, where since the lockdown of 2020, our overall wrecks have been going down, and we're following that trend. But the number of serious and critical and fatal collisions has been going up, and unfortunately, we're following that trend as well in Wichita. Okay, so that's a nationwide thing that's happening, just for your information. But, so what do we see in terms of who crashes? Well, I can't give you any hard data on what our age breakdown is for who crashes, primarily because we switched some of our systems that we track that data in, and as that's going on, I can't data mine that detailed right now. But again, nationwide, the people that are most likely to get in crashes are the inexperienced, very young, or the very experienced that are losing some of the abilities that are required to drive. Okay. And another thing happens that we see with what do we decide? Senior drivers or experienced drivers, or someone suggested spicy drivers back there, right?
Spicy drivers.
So one of the other things that we see and isn't always communicated really well is what medication can do to driving, right? So driving under the influence is usually thought of as alcohol, right? But it's really anything that impairs you. So if you're taking prescription medication and your doctor hasn't told you, but it has that warning on there that says do not operate machinery or may cause drowsiness or something along those lines, that's probably an impairing substance that you need to not be driving on if you are taking that, okay? And the consequences for driving on that is the same as getting a DUI with alcohol, okay? So the National Highway Transportation Safety Administration will tell you that the number of impaired drivers is the same statistically regardless of the time of day. The substance that impairs those drivers has changed. At night, it tends to be alcohol. During the day, it tends to be medication, okay? So just be aware of that. A lot of people aren't aware of that, and doctors sometimes, I'm not saying anything bad, but they don't always educate people on driving on those medications, okay? Driving is one of the more complex things that you're going to do during your lifetime, right? So it takes hand-eye coordination, it takes vision, it takes hearing, so you can hear the ambulance or the fire truck or a horn honking or whatever. And as we age, some of that stuff goes down, right? Like, so as my kids got older, they could beat me at all of the video games that we played because they can hit the square triangle buttons much faster than I can now, right? So same thing happens with driving, okay? It takes eye-hand coordination, eye-foot coordination, all kinds of things. So take advantage of what is offered to you through these other organizations. The Wichita Police Department doesn't have anything specifically for senior drivers. It might not be a bad idea to look into something, but it looks like you have resources around town for that. But what can happen is if you are found if you start to have problems driving on the roadway and we become involved, officers can fill out a form to have a review done of the state, by the state, and they will, there's various things that they can do. They can come in and have you do a driving test again. They can send you to the doctor to have a medical test done, vision, various things that can be done in order to make sure that you're safe on the roadway, and officers will turn those forms in when we start to see somebody having some of those problems, because safety on the roadway is the main goal.
Okay, great.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Loud.
I'm sorry.
We have to be loud. We have to kiss that mic.
Okay. Okay. So safety. I'm sorry. Safety on the roadway is the goal here. No one wants to take driving away from anybody, right? That's the worst case scenario. So we want some self-regulation. We want you guys to recognize what strategies you need to do before, hopefully, we don't have to get involved with that.
Very good. Okay, I've got a lot of questions for you, but we will go on to Candace and have you educate us, and then we're going to start questions. I've got several of them. Who has some ahas? I had an aha from what he said. It's simple, but driving is one of the more complex things that we do on a daily basis. Duh, that's so simple, but that's true. It's very complex. And then you throw in the medications and vision changes, and it gets complicated. Physical ability, mobility is huge, and we have an expert on that that's coming up in a few minutes. Okay, Candace, thank you.
So I'm Candace Bonison with the Sedgwick County Department on Aging. We are also a dual agency with the Central Plains Area Agency on Aging. How many of you have heard of us?
CP
A few of you.
AAA.
Quite of you. Okay, great. Well, we are one of the programs that provide transportation. Our portion is actually supporting everything outside of the Wichita city limits, to where we do bring individuals needing access to services that will bring them to Wichita or a close community within our region. And we, of course, with Wichita Transit, there are specialized services that service individuals with disabilities or meet a criteria within the ADA eligibility of the application to make them eligible for a curb-to-curb access transportation. Sedgwick County has been doing transportation for 38 years, believe it or not. We have kind of been a small speck on the dot. The county kind of has a lot of things going on, but I can tell you it's very effective. We have been doing transportation for the rural communities and the urban communities. We provide some direct. We also work with some of our contractors that assist us with overflow and during peak hours. So we've been doing this for some time. We've also been vested in doing car fit events over the years prior to the pandemic. We're looking at beginning some of those as the years progress here, and as we start being able to get back with the groups, because it does take a little bit of undertaking of having those individuals that can assist us with that car fit. So yes, we've been a resource for individuals, and we call it older adults. All of us have that capability and respect, and we want to keep people independent and mobile. So that is our driving force for having a transportation program. And fortunately, and we'd like to continue this, is getting that support from our community, from our commissioners and stuff. So if you have questions or anything of that nature, all of that does revolve around those constituents. So speak to your individuals for your districts or even legislatures, because they're a big part of how transportation is taking place. So if you support it, we'd love to hear from you and or get those referrals. So we have some information over at the table here about some initiatives that we're doing as a state initiative with mobility managers. That's trying to identify how a person can get from one place to another, possibly across the state. So we get those challenges on a regular basis, but we're in a collaborative working process right now. I work with the Kansas Public Transit Association, and a big driving force is being able to advocate for our transit agencies across the state and having one at least as available as we can within each county. It's challenging, as there are still some without. However, we are advocating left and right to be sure that everybody has some sort of access to get you to be able to your means of living day to day. So thank you all for having me here today, and I look forward to your questions.
Very good. Thank you. All right, we're going to do 5 minutes of questions, and we're going to have a little intermission break, and you're going to hear something about fitness and mobility during that 10-minute session. And then we're going to get back to the Q&A. So write down your questions. Think about the questions you have so that after our intermission, you're really ready to go with those questions. So I'm going to ask you a few to get started. Distracted driving is something that you're seeing of drivers of all ages. And what are some of the distractions that you see with people of any age, but also with seniors?
Okay, so distracted driving, everyone automatically thinks, what, cell phones, right? And certainly that is a problem. But a distraction in the car is a distraction, right? So if you look down at the radio to change the radio station, you've taken your eyes off the road, and that's a distraction, right? Somebody in the back seat, grandkids in the back seat are making noise, and you turn around and look at them, you're taking your eyes off the roadway. So we measure speed of cars in miles per hour, right? Which is fine, and it's an easy way to do it, but when you really think about how many feet per second you're moving, which is another speed measurement, you really realize how much you're covering, right? So if you're driving, 50 miles an hour, math, you're doing about 70 feet per second, little less probably, but for round easy math, about 75 feet per second, right? So that's a lot of, you take your eyes off the roadway, and you've moved pretty far in that time.
Okay. And I understand that a lot of older adults, let's say older adults, are some of the most likely drivers to leave the scene of an accident. Are you aware of that? Do you see that happening? What if someone has an accident, what are the rules?
Yeah, so Wichita operates on essentially kind of a modified emergency accident reporting plan, right? So if you get into a wreck where there's no injuries, the cars are drivable, and there's no impairment involved with it, you can notify 911, make a report later through one of our substations. We're working on a little bit easier way to do that. That's currently the system. The rules are, if you get into a wreck where you've damaged somebody else's property, you have to stop and exchange information, essentially, and make sure that if somebody is hurt, they get whatever aid they need. So usually that's all fulfilled by stopping, calling 911 and telling them who you are and giving them your insurance information. Where we see, I don't know that the majority of our hit and run wrecks are caused by one group or another, but when we have ones that involve older drivers, a lot of times what we hear is that they were confused and didn't know what to do, and so they chose to go back to somewhere that was safe, whether that's home or a relative's house or something like that. That's what we've, just kind of in my experience, that's what we've seen most often from older adults.
Okay. That sometimes they might leave the scene because they were confused and just shaken. I mean,
no ill intent necessarily.
No ill intent.
Just weren't really sure what to do, and so defaulted to going back to somewhere that they knew was safe, or a lot of times where they could get help from a relative or a friend or something along those lines.
Okay. Does anybody have a question out here? Okay, Connie.
I have a question for Candace. How does someone get a hold of you, or do they have to have a referral? My cousin lives next to a man that's on dialysis. He's by himself, and she's been driving him, but that she had a heart attack, and now he's driving himself, and there's a risk of him, having a seizure or something while he's on the way to the dialysis center.
Okay. So how do they reach you, Candace?
It's a wonderful question. Okay, so we have multiple ways of being able to contact us. We can have a phone call to our hotline here in Wichita at 316-660-5150. We also have 5150. And we also have our CPAAA hotline, which is a 1-855 number, and I don't remember it all completely right off the top of my head. I know it's 200, and then the last four I don't have memorized. So, but then there's also websites. Of course, you can go to the Sedgwick County website under Aging, and our program is listed there. You can email us. We'll get the information, and we'll contact you with one of our awesome customer service representatives that do scheduling and some of the dispatching. We also are on the Kansas Rides website, which there's a file over there, or a piece of paper, that has the main website for that, and basically it provides all of the information for anything that's general public across the state. So if you have questions on that. And then
Okay.
going back to your question on the individual that is doing their self-driving, and a lot of this does come from our experience from individuals with dialysis. Dialysis is one of those things, especially if you're new to dialysis, they kind of would like you not to drive within your first 30 days just to see how well you do with dialysizing. And it does change you during that period of time because you are being drained and getting back to that living possibilities of getting through it. Okay, so here's the number. Let me get you 1-855-200-2372.
Very good. So 1-855-200-2372. And there's information at this table, and you can 3-hole punch it and keep it in your binder. Because even if you think you don't need this information today, you might need it next week or a year from now, and it'll be there for you in your binder. Thank you, Randy.
So we look forward to being able to help anybody in that calls us, and we will look for the most efficient or type of transportation an individual needs, because it's not always our service.
So there are times it might be dialysis or other things that maybe you should not be driving, and if your driver can't drive you, that doesn't mean that it's a good idea for you to start driving. So what should we do if someone feels that someone really should not be driving? Can any of you answer that question?
Yeah, Candace reminded me, I forgot to say this, but
And really loud.
there is a letter of concern. You can go on the Kansas Department of Revenue website, Division of Vehicle, click on forms. It's called a letter of concern. Anybody can fill that out and send it in to the department if you feel a family member, a neighbor or something shouldn't be driving. And I mean, that can save lives. What that starts is a process of a medical or vision review. The license holder will be sent a letter saying you need to have these forms filled out by your eye doctor or your medical doctor. If you don't get it back to the department within 60 days, they revoke your license. So during COVID, it was a lot of that work was done at home, and it just got into a real mess. But you do have this letter of concern if you have. There are certain restrictions. My favorite restriction is licensed driver front seat. So if I have a family member that says, you know, mom and dad shouldn't be driving, this is like the daughter brings them in, and I said, well, we can put a restriction that you have to have a licensed driver with them when they're driving. And that usually takes care of the problem. So.
Okay.
It's the Kansas Department of Revenue. Remember, the Division of Vehicles is a part of the Department of Revenue. So just go to Kansas Department of Revenue, Division of Vehicles.
Okay.
And then there'll be a whole bunch of links there. Look for forms. You can like get a bill of sale. You can sell your car. You can do whatever you want on that site.
Okay.
You're looking for a letter of concern.
Letter of concern. Okay. And we'll take one more, and then we're going to bring up Rebecca. Okay.
Okay. My question is directed to both Sergeant Mock and to Dr. Krug. And what I'm concerned about is that a lot of people just assume that when someone stops driving, they're going to have another form of transportation, someone driving them somewhere. But as an avid pedestrian, what happened to me, I became a pedestrian. You know, I'm walking everywhere I go most of the time. Yes, I ride the bus sometimes, but I have to walk almost 2 blocks to the bus stop. And not everyone is getting door-to-door service because not everyone's so bad that they can get it, and you have to wait and schedule those things. And sometimes what you need is right now. And I have a neighbor who gets impatient and can't wait and will just take off walking. I'm not going to point any elbows, but anyway, and some people have to be told, you can't just go take off walking by yourself because it's not safe for you to walk on your own because that's a main street. What are your concerns about someone who doesn't have that visual the visual field, the reflexes, or, you know, that lives on a main street that can't, you know, respond to the traffic as a pedestrian? Either of you.
So being concerned about being a pedestrian because you're no longer driving, I do see this. I see some of our clients, senior clients sometimes, that are walking great distances. We had a client that he gave his car away. His son got out of jail. He gave his car to his son to help him out, and then he didn't have one, and he had to walk everywhere.
So the question was on safety and walking if you're a pedestrian and you can't drive. So, you know, this age group doesn't like talking about white canes, but one safety feature of a white cane, you do not have to be totally blind to use a white cane. It is a symbol that you are visually impaired or you cannot see. A white cane or a long cane is white with a red tip. You will see people around town, but just walking with it, if you don't use it for anything else, it's going to signal to other people. Now, I think distracted driving figures into this too. So you got to make sure you use controlled intersections, use the crosswalks, everything that you can, use your other senses, things like that. Envision has orientation, mobility, instruction. That's what that specialty is called, to train you how to use a cane. And you do not have to be totally blind. You do not have to have a guide dog. It is a symbol that you do not see, and people need to look out for you. And I don't know if there's some legal ramifications, but I assume there probably are.
So from the safety, from the police department perspective, we would want you to use the signalized intersections first for crossing the roadways. Now, an oddity in city ordinances is that jaywalking is only illegal in the core area, which is basically defined as downtown. So where we see pedestrians struck most of the time, it's when they're crossing mid-block or mid-roadway. So while that may not be per se illegal, it's definitely a safety hazard, right?
Mm-hmm.
So using the areas that are designated for the crossing is your safest thing to do, even if it's not legally required.
Good point. Because remember, there's a lot of distracted drivers out there, and maybe drivers with low vision impairment, and so don't cross in the middle of the street where they're for sure not watching out for you. They're adjusting their radio. So cross in the right spot like we were taught in kindergarten and preschool. All right. So do you know when we learn the best is when we're laughing, when we're hearing a story, or when we have recently been moving and gotten a little exercise. So this is your potty break if you need one, or your chance to grab something that you're dying to get. There might be coffee still back there, but this is also an opportunity to learn about how fitness plays into this. And we have Rebecca, owner of Club Hope, who's been featured on our television show a couple times, and she's been here before, and people love what she does for our little intermission. All right,
Yes.
take it away.
I'm going to start before I turn on the music. While we listen to this, one thing that I struggle with is while I can't help vision, I bet 80% of other things that start to limit people from driving can be helped with just a little bit of work. At the club, we work on strengthening the leg. I'm going to show you some of the exercises we do specifically for things that will help you drive and stay. It's all about movement. How many of you move on a regular basis 2 to 3 times a week, at least 30 minutes? Excellent. How many of you have knee problems? How many of you have hip problems? How many of you think your brain's like kind of gone away? Right? How many of you have shoulder issues? How many of you have no issues? Wow, that's awesome. Keep it that way.
Okay, those will be our experts next month. The 4 people in the room that have no issues with their body.
How did you do it, right?
Sign up with me.
Yes. So the trick is, and what it is it's so easy. People think of training with a trainer as building muscle and being strong, and that's what we do, but it's called functional training. It's called actively aging healthy. Our goal at Club Hope, we are a small organization. We are functionally aging trained. We come in, we work with you one-on-one. Just because you have a knee problem doesn't mean you can't eventually walk without pain. Just because you have a shoulder issue doesn't mean you can't eventually get your range of motion back. All of my clients that have been with me will say after 2 weeks of moving, I just lost my mic.
Oh, here you go.
Nobody ever has to tell me to talk loud. Okay. After 2 weeks, working with me for 30 minutes twice a week, that's 60 minutes for the entire week, they start to notice changes. That's it. 2 weeks, 30 minutes. So just know it's not like you have to dedicate your life to it. It's about going to somebody who knows what they're doing and how they do it. Hey, I have a couple people out here who agrees with me that like just a couple weeks of moving and changing some things make a difference. Yes. So think about it. Prevent some of these things that you're worried about, losing those keys. Our goal is to help you live your best life where you are at right now. So, of course, we're going to move today because that's really why I'm here. Let me turn on some music. Everybody's going to stand up. We're going to start standing. And if you can't stand, you should definitely come see me. Anyway, okay. Okay, and I figured, oh shoot, I lost my connection. Just a second.
Okay.
Turn off. Technical difficulties. Okay, start marching. Come on, start marching. Sing to yourself.
So we're going to march in place.
Oh my goodness.
Exercise makes a big difference. You know, people say you can lose weight without exercise. That drives me crazy because they're encouraging people to not exercise.
So I really don't have my speaker, but what I'm really good about is spontaneous. So you're going to imagine that we're driving the car. Baby, you can drive my car. Okay, so we're actually going to start like that. We're going to drive. My speaker is just not connecting. So drive your car here. You can even get those hips moving. However, if you've had hip issues, don't move them without working with the trainer first, okay? So drive that car. They don't have any speaker system here, do they?
No.
What if we put, oh, wait. Keep driving. There it is. Here we go. Okay, and it's all about having fun. So yes, you can exercise at home. March it out. You can exercise at home, but put the dang music on, people, right? You can get with your neighbor. If you can't come to us, you can get with your neighbor, and you can drive each other all the way crazy all around the room, right? So things that we're going to do while you're standing that help with driving, you're going to put one foot down, goes in, you bring that knee up and out. How many of you get in the car and then you lift your leg and bring it in with you? That's because you have weak muscles. We can fix that. So let's do it. Knee up and over, then bring it back. Stay on one leg, especially if you have balance issues. All right?
And balance is one of the most important things you can work on.
Other leg right here. Do it in a chair.
You can hang on to something.
That's right. Remember, it takes little things to do things that change your life. I promise you. And if you need a fun place to do it, march it here. We play catch the ball. How many times has anybody played ball lately? Catching the ball? One of the best things, it's about reaction time. Okay? Play catch with a neighbor, throw it at the wall and catch it yourself. All right? Oh wait, here comes a real good one.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, here we go.
Imagine it's windy outside, and you know, you got your T-bird, right? And the wind is flying through the air. I almost fought a fan, but then I needed somebody to help me, so. Look. See, doesn't it feel good? That's right. The other thing to think about, and some of you may have shoulder issues, you don't want to hurt anything, but something we need to work on is shoulder flexibility. Nice and slow. How often? It's like reaching something on the top shelf. The reason so many people have shoulder issues and limited arm mobility is because we don't work it. So make sure you release those shoulders. Sometimes it's all about flexibility. All we have to do is stretch some things out that haven't been stretched for a while. Okay, so I want everybody to find a touch point that will actually help you, because what we're going to do is to balance, right? Most of you will probably need some assistance, and that's okay. This is your baseline. Leg up and hold. This is your baseline. That's like 5 seconds. Our goal in time, I promise you, if you work at it, you will get better. And then you have to keep working. Okay, all right, shake that out. Did everybody master all 30 seconds? Up and hold. If so, be a trainer with me, all right? Woo! See that? Don't move. You're messing with focal.
Oh,
Good. March it out right here. Oh, the other thing, I want everybody to take a seat. Don't worry, we're not done moving. We're going to do that in and out of the car when you're seated. Can I borrow this seat? She didn't answer, but that was a rhetorical question. Sorry. Okay, so when you're seated, it's more difficult. In and out of the car, goes out and bring it in. Because most of my clients, when they start, this is how they get in the car. So you want to stop using that hand and think about engaging the muscles in the leg to do the work, okay? Switch it over on the other side. Anybody have been on Route 66? That's something I've always is it worth the ride or the drive? Good. Okay. All right, here we are right here. Everybody run. And you said you couldn't run. You're running right now. Things we can't do standing doesn't mean we can't do them in the chair. This is a great way to get that cardio up and wake up those muscles. Oh, here's one. Leg out. Point and flex. What do you think you're doing right now? You're pushing that pedal down. Some people deal with neuropathy. Some people deal with ankle replacements. We got to have that movement. Switch. Woo! I'm kind of getting a little sweaty. All right, so the next one, you may need a touch point, I don't know, but one of the most important things we do at the club, and everybody does them, whether it's a squat or not, you call it what you want. Those who don't like the word squat, we call them sit and stands. There's one of the most important things you can do every day. You simply stand up, and then you sit down, but you don't plunk. Do not drop on your booty. You control it on the way up, and you control it on the way down, right? Those who have lower back issues, do you think when you plop yourself in a chair that helps? No, we can actually improve on it. All right, good. March it out. So what I want you to know that, yes, aging happens. Yes, if we don't work at it, our body does slowly start causing us problems, but a lot we don't have to accept. You have control. We can't control everything, but there's more than we can control that most people know. We can literally change your lifestyle. Our goal is to take any limitation, your post-surgery, anything that may hurt, and help work it and make it strong. So no matter what you want to do, whether it's playing on the floor with your grandkids, whether it's taking them to the zoo, no matter what you want to do, your health doesn't get in the way of it.
thank you, Rebecca.
There you go.
Join us on the panel. I put a chair up for you. We have about 8 minutes for questions. So think about your question. Try to make it a short, easy question.
So I can
And we'll let whichever panelist wants to address it. If the experts would come on back up. And who has a question?
Oh, okay. Well, I really do have a bad, big mouth.
Okay, there you go. All right, Officer Mock, how important is it if people do not have mobility, if their foot doesn't work very well or their hips don't work? They don't walk around very well. How does that affect the driving?
Well, so here's the only way to
Okay,
stop that.
1, 2, 3. Shh.
So the only way to stop that car is with your foot, right? So if you're assuming you don't have hand controls in the car, if it's a normal car with regular controls, the only way you're stopping that vehicle is with your foot. So if you're having foot mobility issues, that's going to be obviously a concern. The state of Kansas has dozens and dozens and dozens of restrictions. One of those restrictions is hand controls, that you have to drive a vehicle that's equipped with hand controls. And that's usually applied to people, as far as I know, that are paralyzed. But it might be something that they can restrict the driver's license so that you can operate a vehicle with hand controls. If you're having mobility issues, that'd be something you'd have to explore. I don't know the answer for sure to that question.
Okay, thank you. All right, so it's important to have flexibility, mobility, and to be in the best physical condition you can be in. And just because we're aging doesn't mean we can't exercise. And I highly recommend that everyone work with a personal trainer. Okay, I'll be there and there. Okay?
This is for Dr. Kraus. When you turn 80 and go get your license renewed, is there any test besides the eye test? Did you hear that?
I'm sorry.
Dr. Krug, when you're 80 years old and you go back to renew your driver's license, is there any special testing, anything to do with vision? Did that? Okay. Other than the eye test, is there any special test for people that are 80 or older?
No, nothing is age related. It's in statute, in the Kansas statutes, the 2040 minimum with or without correction. And if you cannot meet the 2040 minimum in one eye, then you have to have an eye doctor fill out the form. If it's worse than 2060, then you have to have medical review, which may require likely does require a drive test.
So aging is about being your own advocate, like we should at any age, being your own advocate. So maybe you can get a driver's license, no challenge at all, but maybe you should be thinking about what do I need to do to be a safer driver. As far as the state of Kansas knows, I'm a safe driver, but maybe I know I need some help.
So one thing to add to that, when law enforcement refers somebody back to the state, that can trigger a driving test that might be different than like just a medical review. There's different levels when it's a law enforcement referral that can get put into place. So when that triggers in is up to the state, though.
Okay, thank you. We had another question here.
Here, I had a quick question. Well, actually, she mouthed it to me, but she asked what my phone number was. I will tell you, I'm actually offering today because I believe 100% in empowered seniors. I believe in empowering you. Anybody who wants a free 30-minute, like just an assessment on what you may need to work on and how you do that, you can come get a card. My phone number for the lady who asked is, I'm going to give you my cell phone, 316-737-1379. That comes directly to me.
Okay, repeat it one more time.
316-737-1379.
1379.
And if you get a card, I'll write free 30 on the outside, and you can contact me, and I'll set that up.
Okay, thank you.
I might follow up on your question, too. I think the only thing that changes, and the legislation did change, the statute did change this last year, but I think it's at 65. You have to renew every 4 years, and before that, it's every 6. But the process is the same.
Okay, thank you. All right, we have seminar evaluations. If you would fill those out, our team is going to hand out seminar evaluations. You can let us know what else you'd like to know about. The experts are going to be here where you can ask some questions. We'll get a photo when we close of the expert panel, and then you can go up and talk to the different individuals that you have more questions for. But if you have a question, I'd encourage you to raise your hand and say it out loud because your question will help someone else in the room. So does anybody else have a question about driving, safe driving? Okay. All right, panelists, do you have, as we've talked about all these issues, do you have any last words for us? Ken, we know AARP, they have an amazing driver's course.
Okay, yes, one thing that I forgot to mention, in the course book that you're given when you take the course, there's some resources, information in the back. Part of it is for you to evaluate your driving habits. Part of it is to evaluate the road conditions changes that happen over time. And so one of the things that we do, some of the questions that you ask would be covered by those resources in the resource section of the driver's participation guide here.
So I think what I would say is that, I encourage you to take advantage of all the resources that they're offering because I don't want to be the one that gets involved, right? So I don't want to take people's driver's license or refer people for testing or whatever. So that puts some responsibility on you guys to advocate and take advantage of the resources, and that's true of all of us. So just keep that in mind and be safe for yourself and everybody else.
So what a heart you have, choking up a little bit. He doesn't want to be the one to drive up on your crash or to come across people that you might know that have been in a bad situation and they're confused. And so look out for each other and do everything you can to keep yourself fit for driving. The mini self-driving assessment, you can do that here or do it later, but this is really interesting and gives you something to think about. I think some of your ahas will come later as you're reflecting on some of the things that you've heard today. Dr. Krug, do you have a last word for us?
Yeah, a couple things. Since vision is so important, think about having your eyes tested every year, not just for routine stuff. Maybe think about having your driver's license the month before your birthday, because your driver's license is always going to come due on your birthday, especially for people who have annual restrictions where they have to have renewals every year. Get it ahead of time. You can get the DV-130. The state will send out the reporting form to you in the mail about 6 weeks ahead of your appointment. So get it ahead of time. Get with your eye doctor. Be on a basis where if you have trouble, they can help you out. And then Catherine said I was supposed to say activities. Pickleball, man. Start playing pickleball. It's good for the eye-hand coordination and your reaction time. Just don't play it while you're driving.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Very good. And we have a question from the live stream audience. Anne? Great question. When is the next AARP driver's course, or how can they find out about it?
Okay, we have the next one is going to be on the 26th of this month. It's going to be at the Orchard Park Senior Center. One of the handouts that we have on the table, which may not help the live stream audience, gives the next like 3 months of courses that's being offered here in the area.
So we'll post that form that he was talking about on our Facebook page, Empowered Senior, so you'll have 3 months worth of information on upcoming classes.
Okay, get your pen.
Get
Get ready. Most of the limitations in our lives are those that we set on ourselves.
Most of the limitations
In our lives are those that we set on ourselves.
are what we set on ourselves.
The other thing is you are never too old to set a new goal or dream a new dream.
I just had someone on, thank you, Rebecca.
C.S. Lewis, not me.
Okay, C.S. Lewis. And I just had a lady on the television program a few weeks ago that drove until she was 99. And then she said the state took away her driver's license, and she said a naughty word on TV, and it aired on public television, a very naughty word, because she's very upset that she lost her driver's license at 99 because she was a perfectly good driver. But then somebody told me that wasn't exactly true. She'd had a few car accidents and left the scene and went on home. And but she did drive till she was 99. Candace.
Last words, that self-assessment does give you those aha moments. So we find that that's a very resourceful use just for yourselves. Even I've gone aha a couple times with people and myself. So yes, please just look it over. And like we say, many of us as we get older, we regulate ourselves. We know what we have the capabilities of doing. Family members, we've had caregivers contact us and stuff, but usually it comes around that there's just something different about how that would be, and it would be that their glasses needed updated and so forth. So it really is something for you if you have any concerns or have been noticing a little ding here or there or hitting a curb once in a while. I'm very guilty of that too. So depth perception is always a good indicator of maybe your glasses do need some adjustments or something like that, looking at your new prescriptions. Please give us a call at any time during for the Department on Aging and their Aging Disability Resource Line. Again, that number is 1-855-200-2372. We are that resource of identifying what is available for older adults,
Thank you.
55 and older, actually. So,
All right, well, we're going to wrap here. I've got a few things to share. So I had a few ahas that you might have missed. Envision, you mentioned Envision. That's ENVISION. That is a nonprofit here in town that helps with visual impairment of any kind. And so Dr. Krug mentioned Envision, and that's something for you to know about and you to tell other people about. When you get your eye exam the month before your birthday, get your eye exam at least once a year. Tell your eye doctor that you're not just concerned about updating your prescription, but you want to know about your field of vision as well, and you want to make sure that your eyesight is good, or at least be aware of what your eyesight ability is for driving. Functional aging was mentioned a few times, and there are functional physicians, functional medicine, physicians that can help you stay healthy as well. So exercise is very important, working with personal trainer. But if you've been saving money for your retirement, today's the day. This is what you've been saving for. If you have the ability, hire people to help you age better, and that would be trainers, and then maybe some medical doctors that aren't necessarily your Medicare doctor. What? But my insurance. Use your insurance and your regular doctor for the things that you can get through them. But I'm telling you, you need other doctors. And a big clue is if they take insurance. If they take insurance, that's not the doctor I'm talking about. Find a medical doctor that does not take insurance. Why? They're not restricted. They're going to tell you about things that maybe a doctor that takes Medicare can't share with you. So get a second opinion. See a doctor that absolutely, positively does not take insurance. Write them a check. It's well worth it. And they're going to do things for you. Rather than taking care of a broken arm, they're going to maybe help you with other things that are very, very important. And I have 2 doctors that don't take insurance that I see on a regular basis. I've learned that through doing this program. All right, next slide. So today was very specific about safe driving. This next month might be a little harder to wrap your brain around. It's about fun. And we're going to talk about bloom and embrace life, because we're here on this earthly journey to do the best we can to enjoy life and spread joy, and that's what we're going to talk about next month. We're going to have people that are involved in clubs in town and find out about all different kinds of clubs and activities you can join. We're going to talk about travel, like the Corvette clubs in town. They drive all over Kansas and do all kinds of fun things. So we're going to talk about some of the day trips that you can go on, some of the things locally that you might want to do, and maybe a trip of a lifetime, what those might look like. Maybe traveling with your entire family, people of all ages. So that's what we're going to talk about, is bloom and embrace life. We have an author that's going to be here. She wrote this book, Doomed by Blooms, and I think it's going to be very entertaining. We have some really heartfelt stories to share with you next month. And then we're going to have a party. We've been doing this 5 years. We're going to celebrate. We're going to have a party out there, and we're working hard on a lot of special surprises, and so we hope you come. So the seminar will be 10 to 11:30, and then there'll be lunch that you can purchase, or you can bring your own lunch, and we'll have a party out there till 1:30. If you'd like, you can dress up maybe in spring colors. You can wear whatever you want, but if you want to, we'll get all dressed up, whoever would like to do that. So that's next month. Let's end with 3 ahas. Who has a great aha to share? What did you hear today that was very helpful? And have the stamp cards been picked up? We'll give away 2 prizes. Okay? Okay, you have an aha?
I need a personal trainer.
Okay, that's the first aha. I need a personal trainer. What's the next one? What did you learn today? What did you think of the binders? Will those be helpful? Great, okay. Who has a club they can invite next month to tell us about their activities? Was it an aha that you guys can wear your red hats?
Oh, yeah. We wear red hats everywhere.
Okay, well, let's see your red hats next month.
Also, I want to tell you about the forum that has plays and musical things that you can go to, check online. They're wonderful. And also ACAP, which is Air Capital of Active People. And it's a nonprofit organization that you can come to once a month and join and travel with us. And
One-day trips and long trips. So we'd like ACAP to have a table here next month and tell us all about it. All right, that's it. We're wrapped. Thank you so much for being here.